was thinking, I haven't done a video of making a copper ring for a while, so we have a brand new penny that we're about to set light to. That changes its look a little bit, doesn't it? No longer bright and sparkly. However, the heating it up process is called annealing, and that makes it soft enough to work in a way that won't damage the integrity of the ring. In other words, it won't split it and make it scrap copper. First we need to pop a hole in there, and to do that I use one of these punches, but I need to go and check what size this is going to be, and that will determine how wide I make the band. Right, we're going for a size M, and that's a good opportunity to just talk you through a part of the process which is vital at the very beginning, which is knocking L in coin. And the reason that this is the important part is there are different size L's you could knock into the coin, which then forms the band of the ring. So this distance here is determined by the size of the hole. If you think of this turned inside out, because this is an M, if you went for a hole that size, it wouldn't be a ring, it would be a tube. Similarly, that would be quite a broad band. That would be okay, but for maximum effect, actually, I'm just going to polish that up so that you see what I mean by the detail. Hang on. Now, that is a perfect hole for a larger ring. As we start getting down in size, one would think that that would be a good size for a smaller ring, but it still has a great amount of width. This, when made into a ring, actually retains a lot more of the Britannia than you would imagine. But the thing with this is, as well, I haven't got a pointy stick. You need to be aware of the distance between the edge, the reed, and the punched hole. The larger this area, the more space you actually have between the lettering and the centre, and a very broad band. This is stretched out because this is the side of the ring, the non-reed side of the ring, which is enlarged to be the same size as the reed side. So we have, sorry, that's people working in the background. Everybody's working from home in my workshop. So I'm going to go with the 1/2 inch hole on this M size, and we start by putting it into, you're also getting a glimpse of everybody else's work life experience here. This goes into this cone, and this cone, as that screws down on there, forces it into the centre, and then we pop it on the 6-ton press. Now this uses 6 tons of pressure to punch a super clean hole in the middle, leaving us with this. So that then, just as it is, punched out and looking really kind of not very appealing, goes in there to get sent off with a ring. The next stage, now I'm taking this slow. I got this order before Christmas, but there was no way it was going to be shipped out and get to the customer before Christmas. So as I've just done my back in, I've waited until after Christmas, so now I can spend a little bit of time doing this nicely. So the next stage is starting to fold this into a cone, but not yet. First we need to clean that inside punched edge here. It's actually got, you see a ridge there where it's been punched through. I need to get the deburring tool on here and shave that, and then get a small bit of emery. These are sponge blocks, are perfect, and polish that, because the slightest imperfection in there, when I come to stretch it and form it, will lead to this ceasing to be either a coin or a ring. It will be copper scrap. So now we go to the cleaning stage, and then I'm going to anneal it again on blowtorch. I wonder if this will focus. So that's now that inside edge after the deburring tool has been run around it, and it just takes any imperfections out. Oops. And now I'm going to clean this part here, which isn't showing up very well on camera, and then we rub the emery sponge around it, and then we anneal it again. One day I'll put a camera up here so that I can film all this properly and use both hands for doing work. Until then, you'll have to go with my shaky holding my phone type filming. This is now ready for the first fold. Now, this is the only time that we use this stainless steel starter die. And move this out of the way. We don't need this or that part of the Durston stretcher at the moment, because I've done a few of these before. I know that the size die that I will start it in is this one here. Now, because that's going to be the outside of the ring, my camera is not doing what I'd like my camera to be doing. Right, sorry about that, boys and girls. So we start it in here with this, and literally all we do is a tiny, can we see in there, a tiny little, you see how soft that's become because it was annealed, and that's what we want, a nice soft copper. That then can go back here. The following folds are going to be done with these, I think they're kind of like composite fiberglass things, I'm not sure, I keep meaning to ask Jason who made them. This will then slot almost nicely into the reverse of that die. This is where we started it, in there, and this is the other side of that, so it gradually pulls this outside reed edge in, and we're not going to get much push on here because of, it's not really showing very well. Let's level that up. sorry, that's my hand. We need to just get that nice and level, and a tiny little push. Now, a reason for that is what we don't want to do is end up with it. Let me show you. Going like that. Here's one that I deliberately messed up earlier. So we need it to be properly centered in that die. And then I have a little spacer. So that spacer can then go on there. That can raise. We then have the starting of a ring. How about that? Now, this is the thing. We have a challenge. We don't need these anymore. These forming dies and the stretcher, because this is going to be a size M. Well, if we get our sizing stick, our sizing mandrel, we will see that we are on the non-reed side over the size we want. Ooh. Now this is one of those challenges where if we're making a big ring, I'll put it on this Thurston ring stretcher, and the way this works is that center pin is tapered. The splines are tapered, and the pin, as it pushes up, opens these splines out. So you would put the coin ring on there, and you would push this up, and this would expand it out. But we don't want to expand it out. We want to shrink it smaller. How do we do that? Well, first of all, now, because we want that all the way around, where I was gripping it with these sort of plier-y things, I just give that an extra burst before we chuck it in the coffee. Turn that off. The reason for that is I want this perfectly annealed all the way around, and the reason I want that perfectly annealed all the way around is I'm about to wrap it in. I haven't got it out. Gotta get some new ones out. Go through quite a lot of this. This is PTFE tape. So once wrapped, I'm going to squish it through a cone. Probably not that one, I think that one. And that then gradually brings the outside in, because we don't want a cone, we want a ring. Let's get wrapping. So that's now wrapped in PTFE tape. It's the thick PTFE tape, the gas PTFE tape, and then electrical insulation tape. Now the reason for that is if we squish a coin, a soft copper coin, through this hard stainless steel forming die, it will squish all the lettering on the outside and you won't be able to read what it is. It will just be a smooth copper ring. We don't want that. We want to be able to see that it's a 1964 penny. Now before we squish that down through there, we need to have something to push onto. So we need to remove some of this external. And the way we do that, oops, I'm sorry, See, you need a proper cameraman for this job, or a camera woman. Unfortunately, she's busy training someone how to do something or other. So we just, sorry, I'm rubbish, aren't I? We just push that in there, and if you can see, all it does is take that edge off. How about that? Leaving enough to be squished down through there. Now, I like to use everything here is pretty much vegan apart from me, and this is coconut butter, which is a really good lube apart from in the summer. In the summer it turns into liquid, but if we lube the inside of that, it just helps squish this through a little bit easier. So that then drops into there. Wipe my hands on my trousers, and we then need a pushing rod to push it through, and that's where these come in. Dull rim plastic, and that sits in the top there. If I was going to push this all the way through, I would use a spacer, but I don't think we're going to push that all the way through. We're going to get down quite close, but not all the way. I'll put that on there anyway, just so that I'm going to use two hands just to get it started. Hold on. There we are. Now I think I need to get it down to about here in order to form it. Actually, size M. Now I'm going to make it smaller than it needs to be and then size it up. So I'm just going to take this down to that ridge there. Actually, shall I pop it through? I'm going to pop it through. Pop it through. There we are. Now, by pushing it all the way through, let me just pause while I unwrap that. Now, I could have taken that two ways. I could have pushed it halfway through, then turned it around to push it halfway through again, or push it all the way through, which is what I chose to do. The reason for that being, if we now show you the size, we need to measure the size on the reed edge, because that's the thickest edge. Let's move that out of the way. And the reason for that is, if we sized it on the smallest edge, it would be too small. Now this has now come up to two sizes below what we want. It's easier now to stretch this out gently on the Durston using a little bit of tissue, kitchen paper in between here, so that we retain the detail on the inside. Now I can make these smaller, but this is about as small as I like in order to retain some of that beautiful detail and still have it looking like a ring. A larger punch possibly would if I had one, but it wouldn't fit the conical hole punch. Would make for a more dainty band, but this is about the size I think works for that style of a ring. You're wibbling on. Stop wibbling on. Right, give that a little rub up and then get stretching it up there. You need to make a size M ring. Come on. You guessed it. At every stage, it's important to ensure that this is correctly annealed. This is where it's now getting quite critical. The final sizing is where the slightest imperfection on this non-reeded side here could cause the entire ring to split. Hang on, dunk it in the right one. Let's not put it in as coffee, even though the coffee's probably cold by now. Right. Nice and soft, annealed. What I'm also going to do before finishing it is I'm going to shave off that inside ridge. If you can see on there where we have the ridge, which is the reed, I'm going to remove that on the inside to make it a more comfortable fit and make it easier to actually size. I shall do that now using 2 hands. I'm not sure how well this is going to come out on film, but that is that inside reed that I've just shaved. I've left a little bit of a ridge because we need to remember that it's a coin. And now we need to stretch it out to become a size M. Now removing some of the inside of that reed has made that job a little bit easier. Aha, see? It's amazing. Tiny, tiny amount. Possibly not even going to be necessary to stick it on the Durston ring stretcher. I might just remove a tiny little bit more of that reed and see where we go. Like I said, this isn't art, this is engineering. Good old-fashioned engineering. And with a little final manipulation, we have a perfect M. Remember, on the reed side, it's an M. Now, this is ever so slightly skewed, I think. Oh, maybe not. Right, this is the stage where we see what it's like when polished. This is where they really start to come to life with that polish on there. Now I've given it what I call an intermediate polish. This is where I leave some of the tarnishing as a patina. I say tarnishing, it's not really tarnishing on a new coin, but and on the inside we have kept the detail as well. Now size M, I think for me this is probably as small as I'd like to go. After that it becomes more of a bead and you lose so much of that detail, but in terms of it being a dainty ring, I think now that's a good choice to go for the 1/2 inch rather than any other hole, otherwise it would have been a tube. And there's not as much deformation on here as I was expecting. Obviously when you take something big and squish it down, the metal's got to go somewhere, and sometimes it goes in all these crinkly bits, but I think I've been very, very lucky with that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Next is the bit where I make this a private video and send it to the chap who's ordered it secretly to see how much more of a patina, if any, he would like on there. I quite like leaving it. I don't know if we can see with this sort of like semi-antique patina. I could make it a bit darker, but I like the finish on this. This was a nice coin to start with, and I've left, if you can see on the lettering, a little bit of shadowing around the lettering just so that it stands out a little bit more. Not a lot, it's a tiny amount. Now obviously being copper, I do put a ceramic lacquer on these. I'll clean it off in acetone, put a ceramic lacquer on there. Nothing lasts forever on a ring because obviously it wears off. You can always repolish it and put a nail varnish gel on it, but that needs to be done on a reasonably regular basis if you're wearing it quite a lot. The other thing people keep asking me is it a good therapy for arthritis? Well, I wish. I haven't worn copper rings. There is limited evidence as to whether it's a good therapy for arthritis. So I don't claim that it does, but some of the people who've bought the rings off me swear by them. The other question is, will it make my fingers go green? Well, yeah, it's copper, but with the lacquer, not so much. As the lacquer wears off, then yes, but it's easy again. It's easy to polish up. I'm quite proud of that little size M ring. It's actually ring shaped. I've curled it in a little bit to make it, yeah. Right, sorry, whittling on. That's what I do. I wibble on. That's 25 minutes of your life you're not going to get back. So I'll make this public after I've heard back from customer. How about that, boys and girls? Well, I sent the preview video to the customer and they like it, which was lovely. I love it when people love it. So I've given this first dipping of ceramic lacquer, and I haven't overly polished it, but I also, because it's such a nice coin, I haven't done, and I've left the inside just as a demonstration of how you can darken it oft. So the problem with this sort of lighting is it doesn't really show. Now the thing is, this is an M, and when this order came through I thought, ooh, because I think M's about the smallest I would really attempt to do. Just to give you an idea, this is the size that I normally make them, which I think would probably fit over that. Yes, it would. Look at this. And what happens when you make a ring bigger, or a coin ring bigger, is there's less metal, and so it all thins down and the band becomes quite thin. When you do it the other way, when you squish it all in, by the way, I'm wearing a glove because I've just lacquered it and I don't want to run the risk of potentially touching it and getting any fingerprints or anything on there. Now, when you squish it in, there's a lot of metal. See, when it's stretching it out, you're taking metal and making it less. When you squish it in, you're taking metal and making it more. So it becomes thicker and the band becomes wider, and very often, and there's a tiny, it's not really noticeable, but there's a tiny little bit of this gone on, and it's kind of, if it doesn't happen, it's just remarkably lucky, but it's not really noticeable. And I really like that. I'm really proud of this now. I've got some time to just reflect on enjoying doing it. I do like a challenge, but I've had some right ones recently. In fact, I set myself a challenge, which was to take a sixpence. We've got a sixpence over here, and to make a really tiny, minuscule ring from a sixpence. Look at that. That's on it's on the website somewhere as well, part of the 2020. So I do like a challenge, and I'm really pleased that this one turned out okay, even though ever so slightly wobbly, but there's an awful lot of metal in there. So that's pretty much hardened oft now. I'm going to give it an hour. So that lacquer hardens even more in a slightly warmer environment, and then I'm going to give it a final dip in the ceramic lacquer, leave it overnight to harden off, and then send it oft. I'm going to send it oft with the bit from the middle, and also another penny to show what it's made of. This is a 66 not a 64, because I haven't got many 64s, so I'm not giving them away willy-nilly. I'm giving the 66s away willy-nilly, because I've got plenty of those. Never been touched, by the way. Good. Well, I'm happy with that. I hope this has been an interesting video for those who like the idea of making coin rings. Anyone can do it. It's just down to practice and getting a bit of experience. As I say, I was a bit worried that this was going to go a little bit Pete Tong, but I'm actually very, very pleased with the way it's turned out. And this is for the chap's wife. I'm very sure he said his wife. And when I did the original pennies, it was the Fundamental Health project that I was putting together, and I did the penny for your thoughts, and the only ones really bought by women or for women were women called Penny. Kind of like fits, doesn't it? I mean, it's no brainer. So wouldn't it be good if this guy's wife is called Penny? So that's a 1964 penny coin ring. And if it's for her birthday, happy birthday, Penny. Probably find her name's not Penny now. It's probably Margaret or Charlotte or Pauline, Jennifer. If you've enjoyed this rubbish, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, because I can't half wibble on, really, and it's got to be better than daytime TV, surely, folks. Right, let it harden off. Another lacquering. Post it off tomorrow. Cheers, boys and girls.